Welcome to part 2 of our video presentation on chapter 12, which is devoted to planning information system resources or strategic information systems planning. In the second part, we will talk about the last 4 steps in the strategic information system planning process, which is creating an IS strategic plan, and also about formulation of short-term operational IS plan or objectives based on the IS strategic plan. So we're going to talk about those last 2 steps. Also, I would like to remind you that those steps, as well as the sub-steps within each of those major steps, they're very intertwined. They're also not very linear, meaning in reality, in practice, people switch between those steps and sub-steps. But nevertheless, a typical strategic information system plan contains all those components that we discuss throughout this chapter's presentation, meaning part 1 and part 2 together. So let's move to step number 4, which is formulation of an IS strategic plan. There are some sub-steps in the formulation of a strategic IS plan. Typically, organizations conduct external analysis. They are looking at the trends or opportunities and threats that are happening outside of the IS organization. And when we say outside of IS organization, we mean 2 areas. First of all, the entire organization, and also the environment that is outside of the organizational boundaries. We're talking about that broad socio-technical environment that is comprised of macroeconomic forces, political forces, demographic forces, and so forth. Also conducting an internal analysis, in other words, looking on the inside of the IS organization and trying to determine strengths and weaknesses of the IS organization. Now, based on the external and internal analysis, you establish vision, mission, goals, and objectives. And then you formulate strategic initiatives. Typically, those are specific IT projects that meet the objectives and goals. And as I said before, your strategic initiatives may target more than one goal and objective. So setting goals and objectives. Again, the difference between goals and objectives is that goals are typically more general. They're high-level goals. For example, a goal could be can be something along the lines of improving client satisfaction with the IS department, and then objective would be, like, let's say, improving satisfaction with software, or improving satisfaction with networking bandwidth or network response, something like that. So from general to specific. Specific measurable objectives may be established for IS department service image, IS personnel productivity. Let's say, improve productivity of help desk so that our help desk can serve, let's say, 100 requests or queries or inquiries from clients per hour. Something in relation to technology applications, increase effectiveness, or access to external resources. When it comes to conducting internal and external doing internal and external analysis, one framework that is very useful is the so-called SWOT framework. Stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Opportunities and threats, they deal with the external environment, and strengths and weaknesses, they deal with the internal environment. Some people believe that the entire field of strategy, I'm talking about business strategy, not IS strategy, is really about using the SWOT framework and doing SWOT analysis. And the same framework can be used for the IS department to look on the outside, to analyze opportunities and threats, and also to do internal analysis, which is to identify strengths and weaknesses of the IT department. Establishing strategic initiatives. So once you formulate mission, vision, goals, and objectives, you will also come up with the projects or strategic initiatives for the next 5 years that will be well aligned with the mission, that will help you to achieve your organizational vision, and more specifically will help you address the specific goals and objectives that you have formulated. And as I already mentioned, those strategic IS initiatives, they're translated into actual projects. So here we have some examples of projects. I mean, to me, they're not strategic initiatives. They're like little objectives or little tasks, right? But maybe some of those, some of the strategic initiatives listed here, they are more along the lines of real strategic initiatives, not of little tasks. So pause for a minute and just look at the examples of the kind of strategic initiatives that can be formulated for a particular IS organization. So operational IS plan, what is meant by that? Any strategic initiative needs to be translated into an operational IS plan, meaning some specific things that you'll be doing either as a part of one project or like on a continuous basis, meaning like on a daily basis. And those things need to be specific. The thing that you put into your operational plan, they need to be specific. They need to include due dates. They need to include people responsible. In terms of, if you think about project management, then any project will have like broad goals, and also any project will be eventually translated into the so-called work breakdown structure, which is a list of specific things that need to be done to accomplish to carry out or to complete a particular project. So that's what operational IS plan is all about. It's about like a work breakdown structure, specific items that have due dates and that are assigned to specific people. Some other tools that are used in strategic IS planning, for example, critical success factors analysis. Now, what you need to understand is that resources are always limited, right? You never have enough resources to carry out all the strategic initiatives that you have in mind that can potentially benefit your organization. So instead, you need to focus on critical success factors. In other words, what are the most important things that we need to do this planning period, let's say for the next 5 years, so that we can ensure organizational success. In other words, which strategic initiatives are critical for the success of the organization and which are not. So once you identify that, you will concentrate on the critical initiatives, only the ones that are critical to the success of the organization. Analysis of competitive forces, the 5-force framework of Michael Porter, is also used for external analysis. We covered this framework as a part of chapter 7, I believe, that talks about e-business and how dot-coms, how internet entrepreneurship has changed the competitive landscape. So it's also used in external analysis when it comes to information system strategic planning. Value chain analysis is another famous framework by Michael Porter. Michael Porter was the original developer of this framework, not Miller. He was a co-author of one of the articles that basically explained how to use the value chain framework for analyzing competitive implications of IT in various industries. This framework, which is depicted right here, it doesn't give you any specific answers. What it does give you, it gives like a structured way of thinking about a company or an organization and its operations. So what Michael Porter is trying to say with this framework is that any organization can be broken down into a collection of support and primary activities. Now, primary activities means those activities are essential for creating the product or for creating a service that is useful for clients. And support activities, those activities that support primary activities. So he puts technology development, meaning IT function here in the support activities. Although, as I argued previously, in some information-intensive industries, technological development or IT department or technology management is a part of primary activities. For example, in banking, where innovation, where strategies for the last decade or a couple of decades has been driven largely by the IT department. So what this framework says, it says look at the various areas, various activities of your organization and see where you can improve things, where you can undertake strategic initiatives. So for example, maybe you'll undertake a strategic IT initiatives in the service area so that you can improve customer service or after sales service, right? Or maybe you can undertake something that is related to, I don't know, operations, right? So again, it doesn't give you any answers. It just helps you like to create a map of your organization and see where strategic initiatives will be initiated. Scenario planning is another tool that is used in strategic information system planning. Basically, here, here we have this premise that sometimes it's hard to predict future. So instead of trying to kind of place a bet on one particular future scenario, what participants in strategic IS planning can do, they can brainstorm about various future scenarios, and giving those various future scenarios, meaning where the organization will be 5 years from now, how the external environment will look 5 years from now, they will come up with different plans or responses, meaning they will have plan A, plan B, plan C, and they would have actually specific strategic initiatives and specific goals and objectives for all those different plans. So this is like a broader way of formulating your plan, and it helps you take into account some contingencies, some things that may or may not happen in the external environment. So this is what scenario planning is all about. Okay, friends, so this completes part 2 of our video presentation on Chapter 12. Thank you for listening.